Whether you're thinking about going on a cruise holiday, or you are a first-time cruiser, or you just like watching videos about cruises and comparing your own experiences, then this video is for you. Hello, I'm Claire Francis. Welcome to the channel. If you're one of my regular subscribers, you may just like to see what I've been up to for the last few weeks. So today we're going to be looking at cruise holidays, and I'll be talking about the one I've been on recently, as well as a few other tips and hints and things about cruise life. So hope you're going to join me for that. So cruising isn't really just one type of holiday. And I don't just mean river cruises and sea cruises and ocean going cruises. I mean actually within one ship, people can be having very different holiday experiences. So some people like to lie by the pool, lie on the outside decks, sunbathing for most of the day, popping into the buffet for a light snack or lunch, staying out as long as possible, then maybe going to the pub or a bar for a drink. Other people like a far more active holiday. They're in the gym in the morning, or they're walking the decks, and then they're busy from as soon as you land in port, they're off walking miles around the town, exploring, etc. Other people like a slightly different sort of vibe. You might be sitting in the library reading a book. You might be going to lectures on board, learning about new subjects. You may be doing organised trips and learning more about where you're stopping off at. But whatever type of holiday you're having, there's one thing that cruising really does do, and that's provide you with really easy travel. Now, I'm lucky, I live quite near a cruise port, so it doesn't take me that long to get there. And as soon as you get there, it's usually a fairly short process getting on board, and then your holiday starts straight away. So no long airport queues, no problems with travel at all. You start straight away. Day one, you're there within an hour or two, and you can start your holiday and start relaxing. Usually we head straight to find some food in one of the restaurants or the buffet or whatever, and get started on our cruise holiday. And it's a really easy way to travel. I'm not great at airports, and I don't think there's any other way you could see so many different destinations in one holiday, but in such comfort. So it's great if you're not a fantastic traveller, if you have any other issues with, standing in queues and mobility and things, it's a fantastic holiday. But it just makes life easy, it makes it an actual holiday, and you wake up fresh every morning in a new destination that you can explore in your own way. And I just can't recommend cruise holidays enough. However, my partner does always say to me, don't recommend them too highly, because otherwise everyone will want to do them and then they'll end up being too busy and crowded. But fantastic way to travel, fantastic way to see the world. I do hope to do, some sort of world cruise one day. I've done about 15 cruises so far. My main experiences are on P&O, Cunard, and then I've done a couple of other cruises as well. So that's my experiences. This time I actually went on P&O Aurora. So I'm going to tell you about my holiday and what I actually did, the ports we stopped at, a little bit about the trips we went on as well. But first of all, I'm going to give you a tour of the ship. If you do know Aurora and you don't want to see this, it's going to take about 7 minutes, so join me at the other end. However, let's have a look at P&O Aurora. So this is deck 10, which is the deck we were on. There's balcony cabins on one side, inside cabins on the other. We actually had an inside cabin, but it was a slightly larger inside cabin that we booked, and it was perfectly adequate. It's fine unless you are particularly claustrophobic, but we do like to have the inside one. It saves a lot of money. And then straight out the back there, we're into this lovely terraced sunbathing area with the little pool and jacuzzi. And the sunbathing terraces go right out. You almost feel like you're right in the sea there. They haven't actually got the sunbeds out yet. This is very early in the morning. You can see the staff just getting the deck ready for the day. My partner always goes out early, and we tried to film this with nobody around because we didn't want to disturb the privacy of people enjoying their holiday. So you won't see a lot of people here. So we're going up from deck 11 now up to deck 12, which is as you see, an open bar there, and then we've got the buffet at this level. So this is the open terrace bar, and then we go through into the buffet, the Horizon buffet this is. And again, there won't be much food out for you to see, but I'll just show you the sort of layout here. You can see the tables, quite nice, not too squashed together, a bit of space, and obviously you have lots of good views from this deck here on both sides. So it's a nice area. We don't use the buffet a lot, occasionally for breakfast and occasionally pop up to have a cup of tea or something. That's the drink station there. Now we're going out into the indoor covered pool area. So there's actually 2 levels here, so you can go up and then we'll look down and have a look at it from above. So this is the crystal pool, and it's a covered pool area, as I said, so it's nice and warm, lots of sun lounges and things, swimming pool, couple of jacuzzis, and there's a bar there as well. And this is great if the weather's not so good, or it's very windy outside or whatever, or you like that slightly warm swimming pool, indoor swimming pool feel. There was lots of people sort of sitting in there with their swimming costumes on and things like that, enjoying the warmth. And as I said, there's a bar in this area, the Crystal Bar. Then we're coming out now into the lift lobby. The lifts weren't too full actually on Aurora. There was no queuing for lifts and things. It was all pretty quiet, and the lifts are quite big. And then we've got the Oasis Spa here. So spa treatments, reasonably priced. So I did have a pedicure there. And here we've got the gym, which is nearby as well. So it's a pretty well equipped gym. There's lots of machines, bit of free weights area, perfectly adequate. And you can see even at 7 in the morning, there's some people in here enjoying themselves. But there's the free weights area there. So it's everything you need really. And then outside that area, there's just a little tiny water area, little tiny pool with a bit more lounge seating as well, and a bar there called the Riviera Bar. And then we're going to go, or you can see up there to the top deck, there's only 13 decks on Aurora, which is much smaller than the sort of 18 or so decks on some of the bigger cruise ships. Again, you can see more seating, more area where you can eat. If you're getting things from the grill that's around the pools and things, you can go and eat there. I'm walking back round the Riviera Bar here. And plenty of space on the sun terraces. Sometimes some ships get very busy, but here we didn't notice that at all. Also, we've got the little grill there where you can get things like pizza and burgers and things at lunchtime. And the bar there. And I think we've also got the ice cream parlour there. You can pay extra for a nice ice cream and things. And we're back in that indoor pool area. Then we're on the lower deck. So the main deck, sort of 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the deck with, I think it's a reception area here. So this is reception, where you can come and ask questions if you've got any problems and things. And you can come and pick up your daily crossword here and your little news sheet that tells you what's going on in the world. And here we've got a seated area and a nice picture of Princess Anne. I don't know quite why we focused on that bit, but... And here we've got the future cruise sales area. So you can speak to the advisors there about booking another cruise. There's often good offers. You sometimes get extra money on your onboard account and things if you book while you're on a cruise. We were going to, but we actually didn't in the end because we weren't quite sure. Now this is the main atrium area, and you can see this is the beautiful sort of sculpture that goes all the way up to sort of floor 8. It's not quite so grand as some of the lobbies on the bigger, newer ships, and there's not as much seating around, so it didn't have quite the same atmosphere as some of them have. But there was quite a lot to do in this area. There was, obviously you can see there's some shops. They're not open at the moment because we're not in port. You've got the usual shops. You've got lots of perfumes and cosmetics. You've got a jewellery shop there, a jeweller's. That's on that floor, and then there's another floor of shops as well. You can buy flowers for the room, as you can see there. And little seating area there. Now this is near the restaurant, so this is where people sometimes came to sit if they had to wait a little bit for their table. You can see here we've got watches. That's what my partner's interested in. He always likes to go and have a look at the watches. And then upstairs we've got another shopping floor, which again, that's the jewellers you can see in there. And then upstairs you've got quite a lot of clothing actually in one of the shops. They had things like sea salt, the Paradis brand, some of these slightly more expensive brands as well. I think they had some Barber there, some Superdry, sunglasses you can see there. And then we're walking now down towards the Anderson's bar, which we'll come back and see in a minute, because we're heading to the front of the ship now, and this is where the theatre is. So the restaurants tend to be sort of middle or back, and then the theatre's right at the front. So this is the Curzon Theatre. It's quite a large theatre actually, and we saw quite a lot of shows here. There was a tribute to Blondie 2 nights. We also had a fantastic Beatles tribute there. And there was other things. There was a Morecambe and Wise comedy show one night. There was a singer, all sorts of things. And obviously the resident dance and group were there doing various performances, some of which we have seen before. But, you know, nice variety of entertainment. There's normally a show at 8:15 and 10:15. Then just next to it, there's Anderson's Bar, which has a sort of distinct flavour. It's more like a sort of country lodge type, gentleman's club type bar with the wood panelling and the lamps and things and velvet furniture. But it's a really nice place to have a drink. So you can sit inside this, which is a bit more enclosed. And then just outside, there's a further bar area as well where you can sit. And this is the area here. You might see in the corner there the piano. They have a pianist here playing in the evening. Not a lot of other musicians around the ship. There was a busker that played as well at some places. This is Charlie's bar here. And I'm just trying to think what floor we're on. This is deck 7. And walking down, I'm not sure where we're going to head now. I think we may be going up another floor. Oh, that's the shops I was talking to you about with the clothing and other bits and pieces. There's gifts and books and things like that you can buy there, and basic toiletries and things like that. This is now deck 8, I think, so this is the top area of the atrium. A couple of specialist restaurants on this floor, and you can see it's quite a nice drop down there. Not very good if you don't like heights, but it's quite a nice, it's fairly small contained area, as you can see. So there's Sindhu, which is the Asian restaurant there. There's Raffles Bar, and I think the Glass House is also on this, which is another restaurant. This is the Costa, which you could find us in every morning because my partner Mark does really like a coffee. So we tended to come in for a proper coffee after breakfast, and you get a free pastry with your coffee, which or muffin, which could be good, but obviously it's not very good for the waistline. And then also on this floor, we're heading down now to the cinema. So there is a cinema that shows films a couple of times a day, various films. We actually saw, I think, 4 films on board, and there's a little card room there. So I don't know if we're going to go into the cinema. Yes, I think we're going to go in the cinema here. So you can see it's a reasonable size. It was very quiet when we went in there, very easy to get a seat. And we saw films like the Michael Jackson film and the newer Death on the Nile. The P&O Aurora is actually the smallest ship in the P&O fleet. It is mostly an adults only cruise, although they have started letting children on certain cruises, but it is mainly adults only, and they tend to do slightly longer trips as well. Do get quite a lot of older people on them. The trip we were on this time was mainly older people. However, I've been on Aurora before to the Baltic, and I would say that was a little bit more mixed. So you can't always tell exactly what it's going to be like. But it is a little bit more relaxed, so because there aren't children around, and the family boats like Iona and Arvia are great, and it's nice to be able to go on holiday with children and grandchildren and extended families and things. But if you're just a couple going away, sometimes it's nice to have a adults only ship, particularly in the school holidays. So that's why we went on Aurora, and we did, as I said last week, we did a cruise around the UK, around the British Isles. So more on that in a minute. Let's focus on food now. So this is a typical menu in the main dining room, which is obviously included in your holiday price. And this was the dinner. You can see there's a lot of choice. There's 8 choices for starters, 8 choices for mains, 6 choices for desserts, and cheese as well. This was my partner's favourite breakfast, having smashed avocado and smoked salmon and freshly cooked cheese omelette there. I tended to have things like bacon and mushroom and that sort of thing. You can have full cooked breakfast. This is one of the main courses, one of my favourite ones. This is the beef Wellington, which is on one of the celebration nights with the Lyonnaise type potatoes and the veg. Really beautiful, beautifully cooked. And some desserts here, nice Black Forest type gâteau. and my partner sensibly chose the roasted pineapple. I tended to have the not so healthy ones, which is why I put on probably about half a stone. But very nice food. And then one evening they had a nice Mediterranean style buffet out on the deck with things like lasagnas, moussakas, roasted aubergines, that sort of thing. And then this big tiramisu for dessert, giant tiramisu, which was lovely. So they did make an effort with that. It was a really nice evening, being able to be out on the deck, say, with the nice Mediterranean food. Really enjoyed that. But overall, we really did enjoy the food and that on P&O Aurora, better than probably the other P&O ships we've been on recently. And this is the main dining room there. We're just enjoying a glass of wine there. And my favourite cocktail, a passion fruit martini. This is in the Crow's Nest bar, which is right at the top, at the front of the ship, which gives you a nice lookout as to where you're going. And you can see us there again. That's the terraced area I showed you right at the beginning of the tour. This was us sort of ready for an evening out. We tended to dine quite early, actually. We're fairly early diners. And just showing you here, now this is a picture from the cruise I did at Easter, just to show you the outfit. I tend to wear this black dress on the black tie nights with sort of gold accessories. So I wore exactly the same thing. And this one was another black tie night. There were actually 4 black tie nights on Aurora, which is more than on the other ships. Normally there's 1 a week, but there was actually 2 a week on this one. So those 2 pictures are just from my Easter cruise. But that's what I wore as well. So the cruise we did was from Southampton, and we stopped at Plymouth, a couple of stops in Southern Ireland in Era, then Liverpool, then Belfast, Glasgow, then all the way past the Hebrides to the Orkney Islands, then Newhaven, then Edinburgh, and then back home. So in Southern Ireland we had a couple of stops, but we didn't do a lot actually. We went on one panoramic tour looking at the countryside and a village called Kinsale, nice river estuary. It reminded me actually of Devon. The next time we actually got off was in Liverpool and had a great day there doing the Beatles experience. So you can see I managed to get my picture taken with the statues there. We went to the Beatles Museum on the quayside there and had an audio tour, seeing lots of Beatles memorabilia and stuff, which was really interesting, and I enjoyed that. Then we went to the street where the Cavern Club is, didn't go inside. You can see the Cilla Black statue as well. Went to Strawberry Fields and went to Penny Lane as well. So had a little tour of the houses, John Lennon's aunt's house and Ringo Starr's house. And then there I am again with the Beatles. Really enjoyed that day. And then in Scotland, we went to Glasgow and we did a trip to the loch. So this is Loch Lomond and a little village that's nearby. And then we had a scenic tour around some nice hilly mountainous landscapes. And then the coach actually went on a ferry back across the loch, which was really nice. And it was a beautiful sunny day by then. And we got to see all around the area, really beautiful, going across on the ferry there. Then we went around the top of the Hebrides and over to the Orkneys, which I was looking forward to. My dad was there in the war, so I wanted to see the Orkneys. Beautiful place, very atmospheric, nice and calm, beautiful scenery. A little bit rainy when we were here, but we did a trip and we went to see various sites. We saw the ruined Duke's Palace here, and we drove around in our coach. And we went to a few stone circles as well, you know, sort of mini Stonehenges and things. It's a very ancient place, the Orkneys. And beautiful place, so very lush, very green. And then the next place we got off was Edinburgh via Greenock, and had a tour of the city in the bus there, seeing all various aspects of Edinburgh city. And then we went to see the Royal Yacht Britannia. That was the main focus. And there's a great museum there, lots of photographic evidence of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. And then there was the state dining room there where they held the banquets with the foreign heads of state and things. Queen's bedroom here, private bedroom. And then the private sitting room of the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen. That was interesting to see as well. And then we went to the tea room and had a beautiful Victoria sponge, the nicest I've ever tasted. And Mark had a Dundee cake and it was really lovely. I was glad I actually went there. And we weren't really dressed the part for it, but it was lovely. Next trip we did was at Newcastle. We did a trip to Durham actually, but we went to the Angel of the North first of all, the sculpture famous Anthony Gormley sculpture, which I haven't actually been to before. I've seen it before, but that was a nice stop off. And then we went to Durham Cathedral, but it's actually sort of quite high up on a bit of a hill, and to get to it we had to go up lots of cobbled staircases and cobbled pavements, and there were a few people with mobility issues, so it was quite a tricky walk. I think they should have warned us a little bit more, but it was a beautiful place. We finally all made it to the cathedral, and it's lovely inside, really huge sort of dimensions, massive columns and things, and beautiful stained glass windows, so well worth visiting. Did enjoy that. So overall, thought the trips were very good value. We saw lots of places around the British Isles that I haven't visited before, learnt lots of new things, very good value for money. So hope you enjoyed that look at my holiday and some of the other points I made about cruising. The only people I think cruising may not suit is if you're somebody that just likes to be away from everybody when you go on holiday. If you want, complete isolation, you like to be in a villa in the Tuscan Hills or whatever, and you don't want to be near people, maybe cruising isn't the holiday for you. Unless you can afford one of the suites, I think on Cunard it's, the Queen's Grill and things like that, where you have a much bigger lounge area, a nice big balcony, and you don't necessarily need to go out and about on the ship quite as much with other people. But otherwise, I think cruising can suit most people. Hopefully you might try one if you haven't already. And if you've been on P&O, you've been on Aurora, please let me know your experiences. Actually, one lady did say to me last week that she'd actually been on the same cruise as me, but I don't think she'd actually seen me as such. But it'd be nice to compare your thoughts about P&O and the cruise line and the Aurora in particular. But let us know any other tips and tricks that you have as well if you go on cruise holidays, might be useful for the first time cruisers. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't, and I look forward to seeing you soon for probably my first fashion video of the autumn. Thank you and goodbye.